got some new fan art for you. So I was taking a look through Mormon stuff on YouTube, and I stumbled across this video about Mormons baptizing the dead. I thought that was particularly interesting because that's a super secret ritual that they practice, and it isn't supposed to be public at all. The fact that they're publicly talking about it in a video is fascinating to me. It's just a PR stunt to make it seem less creepy and weird. So let's get into it.
You may have wondered about the Mormon practice called baptism for the dead, something that may be new to some of you. So, what is baptism for the dead, where is it done, and why is it important to Mormons? First, let's talk a little bit about baptism for the living. 2,000 years ago, Jesus went to the Jordan River, where he was baptized by immersion, lowered fully under the water, by John the Baptist. By doing this, Jesus showed us two things. One, that everyone needs to be baptized, even he, being perfect. And two, a baptism must be performed by someone with authority from God. The Bible refers to this as priesthood. Why did Jesus go to John to be baptized? Because John had this priesthood. Jesus set the example for all of us.
Okay, so in this bit, they're saying that baptism has to be performed in the correct way by the correct people. I have some questions. First, who decides what the correct way is? I guess we can get the method from the Bible, and it's probably a safe assumption that it's correct. So Jesus was dunked in water. We'll go with that as the correct method, though I protest the claim that any events in the Bible actually took place. Second, who decides who has the authority to perform baptisms? I know he said God a minute ago, but can't literally anybody claim that God gave them the authority to perform baptisms? So what they're doing is they're looking at it from the perspective that they're infallible, and they're the only correct ones. Isn't that exactly what the Catholic Church does? I want to get to the truth. Who is actually correct? The safest assumption in reality is that none of them are correct.
But here's the problem. What about those millions of people who died without baptism, or were baptized but without proper authority? How is that problem solved? God has a way to provide an opportunity for all his children to accept the gospel. This is where Mormon temples and the practice of baptism for the dead come in. Mormons don't baptize dead people. They use proxies, living stand-ins, to represent those who have passed away without proper baptism. Now let me explain proxy a bit. Your math teacher couldn't make it to class because she was out sick, so she arranged for a substitute, proxy, to fill in for her.
Okay, so here he's saying that they get an actual person to get baptized for the dead person, i.e. they don't take the dead body and dunk it into the water. Well, that's good at least. But interestingly enough, it has to be a person of the same sex. That at least partly explains why they're so turned off by the idea that somebody can be transgender. Now, I'm a little confused by their underlying assertions here. I'm not sure where they got the idea that somebody can stand in for somebody else. I don't believe in theology at all. I don't buy it. I don't accept the claim that there's a God who's watching over us and taking part in our lives and all that junk, so don't think that's what I'm saying. But I am going to address this from that perspective. I don't remember the Bible ever saying anything about anybody being allowed to stand in for somebody else, outside of Jesus standing in for mankind, but that was supposed to be a sacrifice, not just a proxy. That's different. With Jesus, he actually had to die for mankind's sins. In this case, nobody's paying a price or anything. They're just performing a ritual in place of somebody, even though the Bible says, or at least heavily implies, that everybody has to do it individually. Everybody has to give their heart to Jesus. It isn't something that somebody else can give to Jesus for you, so I'm really not sure where they got this from. Okay, let's continue.
And you'll remember from the Bible that Jesus suffered for our sins. He also acted as a proxy.
Nope, he didn't. He acted as a sacrifice. That is completely different. He had to give something up. Mormon proxies aren't giving anything up, unless they're replacing their own baptism with the other person's baptism. Does that null their baptism out? Honestly, there's no logic behind this, so I don't know why I'm even trying. They're making this up as they go, and I'm feeding into it. Let's just continue.
In the same way, male and female Mormons in good standing, aged 12 and up, act as proxies. They stand in for their deceased relatives and are baptized in their behalf. A baptism for the living can take place in a river or pond or really any place large enough for a person to be completely immersed, even in a font found in many Mormon chapels. But a baptism for the dead can only take place in Mormon temples, which they consider sacred.
Oh yeah, now let's take a second to talk about Mormon temples. There's a difference between Mormon chapels and Mormon temples. First, you have to be in really good standing to get into the temple. That's where all the super secret Mormon stuff takes place. Like, for example, baptisms for the dead. Mormon weddings happen there too, also known as getting sealed. They have other weird rituals and stuff that go on there. And it's so secret that they have a super secret handshake that you have to do to get in. Now let's talk about who's allowed in. Up until the 1970s, black people weren't allowed into the temple. Anybody who hasn't paid 10% of their income every month for the past year isn't allowed in. If you've committed some grievous sin like fornication, God help your soul, you can't get in either. The super secret handshake should be a testament to how seriously they take it. But some people have brought video cameras in, surprisingly, and here's what they found.
O God, hear the words of my mouth. O God, hear the words of my mouth.
O God, hear the words of my mouth. O God, hear the words of my mouth. O God, hear the words of my mouth.
This is my word for these kids.
Sister Johnston, having been commissioned of Jesus Christ, I baptize you for and in behalf of Teresia Bartzett, who is dead, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Sister Johnston, having been commissioned of Jesus Christ, I baptize you for and in behalf of Anna Nemeth, who is dead, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Sister Johnston, having been commissioned of Jesus Christ, I baptize you for and in behalf of Elizabetha Mesaros, who is dead, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
I feel like I should give credit to the channel from which I got these videos. It's a channel called New Name Noah. I'll put a link in my description if you're interested in taking a look. Now, there was one more clip I wanted to show from a Mormon temple, something I found particularly interesting. Take a look.
Brethren and sisters, as you sit here, you will hear the voices of three persons who represent Elohim, Jehovah, and Michael. Elohim will command Jehovah and Michael to go down and organize a world. The work of the 6 creative periods will be represented. They will also organize man in their own likeness and image.
Yes, as it turns out, Mormons believe that God's name is Jehovah. In that clip, they're getting ready to show them a film produced by the Mormon Church in 1989. I don't know if it's still in use or not, but it got me to do a little more research on Mormons and the name Jehovah. I've gone over the name Jehovah on my channel before, so if you're wondering if the Bible actually says it's God's name or not, it doesn't. The Bible uses 4 letters, called the Tetragrammaton. The letters are YHWH. The language in which it was written didn't use vowels at the time, so we had to insert the vowels. The archaeological, historical, and language communities pretty much all agree that it's spelled Y-A-H-W-E-H, or Yahweh. Jehovah came from a mistranslation in the 1600s. Anyways, this is what the Mormon website has to say about the name Jehovah. The covenant or proper name of the God of Israel. It denotes the eternal I Am. Jehovah is the premortal Jesus Christ and came to earth as a son of Mary. Usually when the word Lord appears in the Old Testament, it means Jehovah. Okay, interesting. Then it says, Jehovah is Christ. Jehovah was known to the ancient prophets. The Apostle Paul taught that Christ was the Jehovah of the Old Testament. The brother of Jared in the Book of Mormon saw the premortal Christ and worshipped him. Moroni also called Christ Jehovah. At the Kirkland Temple, Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery saw the resurrected Jehovah. I love how every religion has their own ideas and views about the different Bible mistranslations and characters. Anyways, let's finish out this video.
Like baptisms for the living, these proxy baptisms are also by immersion and with priesthood authority, and each one is witnessed and recorded. And that's why Mormons are so interested in finding their ancestors, so they can do a proxy baptism for them. You may be asking yourself, isn't it a little presumptuous for Mormons to perform a baptism for the dead who may not even want it? Well, the Bible teaches us that individuals have the right to choose. Mormons believe that right continues after death and that spirits of the dead can be taught the gospel of Jesus Christ. They can then choose to accept or reject it and the corresponding proxy baptism. And to be clear, deceased individuals for whom a baptism for the dead is performed are not counted on the membership rolls of the Mormon Church. Baptism, for the living and for the dead, is another important way God shows his love for his children. So when you hear the term baptism for the dead, remember, it refers to Mormons using proxies, living stand-ins, to provide baptism by immersion with proper authority for those who have died without that opportunity. Now you know.
Oh yeah, the Mormon Church got in some deep shit for baptizing Jews who died in World War II. When that hit mainstream news, they had to come out and publicly apologize and everything. What an odd situation. Do the Jews believe it was doing anything? Do they think it was working? If not, then why do they care? And if they do think it was doing something, then they must think the Mormons are onto something, right? Well, as far as I know, under most Abrahamic religions like Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, if you get baptized under some other religion, it nullifies your current contract with God. And that's why there was such an uproar about it. I think the whole thing is ridiculous and stupid. Whatever. Crazy practice, crazy belief, crazy situation. As a quick side note, there was some shady shit going on with Mother Teresa back when she was still alive. She was bringing people into her hospital and secretly baptizing them as Catholics while they were unconscious. Kind of the same thing, basically nullifying their current contract with God. Turns out she wasn't as good a person as everybody thought. Check out Christopher Hitchens' book, The Missionary Position, Mother Teresa in Theory and Practice for more on that. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Follow me on Discord, Patreon, and all social media. Also, I've started a new thing where I direct people to a random YouTube channel, something like a secret link of the day, so check that out if you're interested. I fully endorse the channel. All links are in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.